Okay, so my company came about because prior to me getting the 8A certification, I had a trucking company. I started this trucking company in 2006. I started this trucking company with one truck that I spent $80,000 for, and that truck note was $2,200 a month. So at this time, you're talking about 2006, literally almost 15 years ago. You know, the fuel prices were different. I was a lot younger. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was just trying something. But in me trying something, financially, that load was very heavy. So fast forward 10 years, over the course of that 10 years, I was able to get more trucks. I had a lot of highs and I had a lot of lows, but it was always a struggle. Like, it was a continual struggle. If I was up a couple $1,000s, a couple weeks later, I was going into my savings to pay for a drive shaft or tires or so on and so forth. So prior to me getting the 8A certification, and prior to me getting my woman-owned certification, prior to me getting registered in SAMS, prior to me getting my capability statement, getting my paperwork together, I was struggling. So in 3 years, I've been awarded almost $6 million in contracts. I've been able to sell my entire fleet of trucks. I've been able to work a lot smarter on the project management side, managing projects instead of trying to have all these trucks and all these drivers, all this insurance, all this gas. Now, I know a lot right now, like, the climate is, oh, everybody wants a truck, everybody wants to get in trucking because it looks cool and it sounds cooler. But the reality is, you know, back 15 years ago, my truck note was $2,200. So you times that by 5, you know, that's a lot to carry every month. So that certification alone gave me power, it gave me connections, it allowed me to pretty much totally turn my back on the harder way of working. And in 3 years, again, I've been able to do what I couldn't do in 10 years because of the way I work. So the Compass Circle, it is about, you know, education and bringing awareness. Most of the time, minority people, we just don't know. I didn't know. And when somebody was trying to tell me years ago, hey, leave those trucks alone and just, you know, manage these projects, I was so bound to the weight and to the financial responsibility of my company, I couldn't even think about anything else. So I get it when I talk to these business owners and they're drowning in debt, or they have to choose between their mortgage and their truck note. Like, I understand that because I've been there. You know, I've done some of the largest projects in the world. Me as a Black, African-American female, you know, under a certain demographic, I'm relatively young. I have done some of the most extreme trucking jobs pretty much, you know, over anybody you know. Like, real talk. I've done, you know, specialty loads, wide loads, tall loads. The average trucker is not doing that. So I could never, you know, until I got into that and working with the port and doing specialized loads. Even with that, I was making $18,000 a day, but I still was not able to do what I have been able to do with that 8A certification. It flies over people's heads and it baffles the shit out of me because it's like, I tell people, you know, this certification allows the government to give you a contract $7 million or less. That is not a farce. That's not a, you know, that's not a fallacy. That's not something I'm making up. That's something you can actually go and Google. But the average business owner does not know about it. And when I tell people this and I make videos, I spend money on promotion, I do classes and events, and I still tell people that, it's like a mindset where some people think it's so big that they can't attain it. And in actuality, that certification is for people who have social and economic barriers. So I fit the description, and so do you. You know, people always say the devil's in the details. Well, the power's in the paperwork. I talk about the 3 Ps all the time: presentation, performance, and then price. Most of us are just trying to get an opportunity. So we don't look at our presentation. Do we have a website? Do we actually have a capability statement? And then what certifications do you have? Everybody on the planet has a business, but nobody is selling that business or that service or that product to the city they live in, to the state they live in, or to the largest customer in the world, which is the federal government. Like, I get it. People don't know that they can actually sell those products, but it's time to just, you know, tap in and get smart and work smart and not hard. My mom is about 61 years old, and my primary residence is in Virginia. My mom went to Kellam High School. So my mom was one of 10 children. My mom actually was one of the first Black students to, you know, integrate her high school. I'm 40 years old, so we're talking about not that long ago. So we get a little comfortable because we're driving a BMW or because we, got a couple Chanel bags or whatever the case may be. But generationally, if you just go back, in 1911, my grandmother was picking cotton. So I owe it to the people who came before me to do, better and to go as fast and as far as I can. And even though, it seems like we're the underdog, there's still, tools that you can use to turn those perceived disadvantages into advantages. That's why these certifications even exist. So for anybody who's in business, the hardest thing is finding out who's gonna pay you. You go out here and you open a barbershop. I talk about this all the time. The average haircut is $10, $15, but your rent is gonna be at least $1,500. So you have to cut a lot of heads just to even break even to cut your rent, to pay your rent, to pay your bills at home. So why not let the government give you a contract for 4 or 5 years where you can hire barbers and you can charge the government, $30, $40 an hour, and you're paying the barber, $20 an hour. You have that profit 7 days a week for 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's how you get millions. So just yesterday, I was in a publication out of Miami. And my secondary residence is actually in Miami. So I did not know that in Miami, they don't even have any type of minority resources available, period. Now I'm just gonna give you guys a quick lesson on how this works. All of us pay taxes, and those tax dollars are allocated to different things, roads, tunnels, bridges. But here, where my primary residence is, lucky enough, some of those tax dollars go to programs to help small businesses, minority business, so on and so forth. So I've been lucky enough and blessed enough to have, I've been given over $30,000 in money for business plans, employee handbooks. I've won scholarships to go to project management institutes, but some states do not have that available. So in the publication, a young woman by the name of Fabiola, she wrote a wonderful article just about the importance of, economics for our culture, and that there is a definite disparity between small businesses in the African American community in regard to, federal contracts and procurement on the government side. Well, why is that important? It's important because 9 times out of 10, a black business is going to be in a black area, whether it's historical or otherwise. So if you're not getting that economy in your neighborhood, then your neighborhood is basically, going to hell in a handbasket. So it is important to close the gap on those disparities, because without these opportunities, we have no power. Yeah, so I love Dr. Claude Anderson. He has pretty much, this thing he talks about where talking about just building economics. So initially, even America is a corporation. I mean, everybody knows that. So just to even be smart and play the game, you need to have a business, right? So the first tier he talks about is business ownership. In order to make money, you need to have a business. The second part to that is politics. These politicians are basically paid help. McDonald's and, Amazon and all these large conglomerate companies get by because they have enough money to pay politicians to make laws that are to their advantage. If you don't have any money, if you're making $7 an hour, if you making $5 an hour, you don't have money to go pay some lobbyist or some politician to do what best suits, your welfare. So it's just important that, we have to really get in gear and use these tools, use these S Corps, use these LLCs to drive commerce to our community. So, in closing, basically, I'm just really passionate about, all of this because I remember not knowing any of it. I remember going for it, and there was nobody to help me. And now that I'm on the other side of that, even now, when I get into different situations, new levels, new devils, when I need help, I have to go to somebody that's doing this at a higher level than I am. So, it's just unfortunate that we don't know, but I'm very passionate about it. I post, I educate every day on ways to empower our community through opportunities. And the best, biggest, and most, plentiful opportunities are going to be with your local, your state, or the federal government.